Welcome to Niche Crafts! Today I'm going to be making the centerpiece for my Troll Horde army and at the same time tackle a project that I've been putting off for months. Welcome to GOBLANDS! For those of you who are new here, I'm Niche, and GOBLANDS is a series where I make a completely custom, mostly scratch-built army for the Old World. This project started as an Orcs and Goblins army, but as I've become more familiar with Warhammer and the Old World in general, I've decided to transition it into a Troll Horde army instead, and that's mostly thanks to Trish Cardin's Troll Hag. I love making monsters and I love Trish's work, so I decided to do my own take on Trish's Troll Hag. If you want to see how I made this, go back and watch my troll video. This is my favorite sculpt I've ever done, and I really wanted the paint job to do it justice, so I've been putting it off until I was a better painter. But the thing about that is, you have to paint to get better at painting. So basically, one of the best things I've ever made sat unfinished on my shelf for months, and I felt like I was never going to get around to it. But my friend Pear over at PKT Crafts made a fundraiser called Crafting for Hope. It's a crafting competition to fundraise for children's cancer research, and I guess that's the kind of kick in the butt I needed to finally finish this model. I'm going to be submitting this piece into the miniature category. If you have the means, please consider donating to the cause. Crafting for Hope, link down below. With Crafting for Hope, I had a reason to finish this model, but I was still hesitant to do it. I think a lot of makers struggle with this feeling of putting off your favorite ideas until you've got more skills. But the thing is, you're not going to get more skills unless you do the projects. You're going to learn a lot more by doing something badly than by not doing anything. I'm a sculptor trying to work on my mini painting skills, but it can be really frustrating to not be as good as you want to be. It can be helpful to watch painting tutorials to see how the pros do it, but sometimes you just get stuck in the learning phase and never in the doing phase. It's okay to just do stuff wrong, and I'm here to show you exactly how to do that. Most people choose a color scheme before they start painting, but you can, in fact, just start adding colors and figure it out as you go. It's usually a good idea to do a base coat over the entire model and not focus on a high level of detail on a very specific part of the model, especially not the face. But you can just do that. My current method for painting is to just throw color around and see what looks good. If I don't do this, my paint jobs end up really bland and boring. I find I can throw color around, see what works, and then carry those ideas through the rest of the model. This kind of experimental process works for me because it reminds me of oil painting. For me, painting the face first let me see that the colors I chose were cool and that the model overall was going to work. And it did. I really liked it. I liked it so much that I decided to add more to the model. As I'm painting it, I realize how much I love this model, so there are a few details that I would really like to add that I think will really elevate the model and get across what I was trying to get across with it. I'm gonna sculpt a few more planty details onto this thing, and then I'm gonna put it onto a better base. The order I'm doing this is insane, but let's keep going. I did the original sculpt in about 3 days, which meant that I cut corners on a couple of areas. When I did the sculpt, I obviously gave the face a lot of details, but a few other areas were kind of lacking. My initial concept for the troll was that she was so gnarled and twisted that her features began turning into plants, her warts began turning into branches, so I wanted to balance out her face branch with some other planty details over her body. So I spent some time adding some extra detail, sculpting with some friends, and I maybe got a little carried away. So I finished sculpting the details onto my hag and I'm very pleased, but now I want to work on the base. A lot of things in my army are the same height currently, and I want to give it different levels to make it more exciting. And since she's so important in the army, I want to give her some extra elevation. So what I've decided to do is to give her a bridge to stand on. So I built basically a little bed frame for her to stand on top of. This will give her a nice elevation, and then from there I will do a resin pour. For those who don't know, resin pours can go wrong very easily, but since she's not actually touching the base, I think it's going to be fine. Instead of using planks or stir sticks, I'm going to sculpt the bridge by hand because I think it'll help tie the whole piece together. I chose to sculpt the planks with Milliput because there were a lot of woody elements in her design. I wanted the planks and the base to have a similar level of detail and charm to them. So I've sculpted the planks, the bridge is looking good, but I've decided that I want her to be removable because I like the way she looks with just the planks, but I also like the bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to magnetize this. I was tossing around ideas with my friends and they told me to magnetize it, and I told them no, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. Because I want this to be flat, I'm going to attach magnets to this, and to the bottom of this, I'm going to attach used blades. Brilliant. Let's do that. Did I need to sculpt each of these posts? No. Am I? Yeah. It really feels like I'm putting off painting again. And I don't think I am, but I certainly am doing a lot before I get back to it. Long story short, we're sculpting all this stuff. I think it's gonna look really neat, so I am who I am. To make the swamp floor, I started with foam. I carved it down with a knife until it was a nice gentle slope. Then I glued in some rocks and sand. Next I added some plants and twigs. So I needed the bridge and the swamp floor to all be painted before I did my resin pour. I didn't have the right materials to make a mold to do my resin pour, so it was a lot of trial and error using the materials I did have to make something that I thought would work. I ended up using plastic packaging as the mold, but then made a frame for it out of foam core. The plastic was too flimsy to hold a nice shape on its own, so that's why I made a foam core box for it. I had no idea if this was going to work, but I poured all my remaining resin into the mold, and then I continued painting. I was really happy with the colors I chose for the face, but to continue with the body, I looked at other people's troll paint jobs as a reference, and then used the colors that I chose earlier to paint the rest of the body. Something I don't see a lot of people talking about is that base coating minis is really boring. I'm sure lots of people like it and they would be happy to base coat my minis for me, but boy oh boy, am I just not having a good time. You're not going to like every part of your hobby. For me, I like building and kit bashing and most of all sculpting, but those things don't feel done unless the mini is painted. So I'm going to keep going until this thing is done and just brute force my way into painting minis. I like painting a little more every time I do it, but I also make really big models that are really hard to paint. Okay, keep going. One of my favorite parts about Warhammer paint jobs is the high level of contrast. So to make sure that I do this in my paint jobs, I'll throw black into the darkest recesses as I paint. Sometimes I'll do the same thing with white to make sure that my highlights are really bright and vivid as well. Sometimes to get good, you have to just pretend you're good and emulate the artists you like. I see a lot of my favorite painters use a lot of tiny strokes to blend and create highlights, so I copied that. This worked particularly good for this model because it really emphasizes how wrinkly and gnarled she is. Again, I really don't know what I'm doing and I'm still getting a good result, and I think you can too if you just take the time and try your best. So the resin has been curing for just under 24 hours. it's fine. I'm gonna open it anyway. This is the first real resin pour I've done with like a frame and all that, so I'm pretty nervous. I don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah. Let's open it. So, looks like we got no leakage, which is great. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna finish taking out this box. To finish off the water effect, I made some lily pads by hole punching some fake leaves. I didn't even have to paint these. I put some glossy Mod Podge on top and then blew it with a straw to create a kind of rippling effect. And then I placed the lily pads on top. Finally, I could put the whole thing together and see what needed a little touch up. I did one final coat of paint, and with that, we can call it done. Let's see how she looks. Honestly, I couldn't be more happy with how she looks. I hope I win. This will be the first time my work is judged, which is really cool. The army is coming together. I got a lot more trolls coming your way, and I'm going to start pushing the boundaries of what can be considered a troll. Since I'm making a completely custom army, no one can tell me what to do, so things are going to get weird. If you like the video, please subscribe. If you want to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. Joining at the lowest tier for just $2 a month would help me buy the materials I need to make crazy projects like this. If you can, please donate to Crafting for Hope, link down below. And as always, let me know what you'd like to see me make next time.